was a dramatic scene, that raid this morning by FBI agents who I should say haven't been paid for a month on account of the government shutdown, but more on that later. Roger Stone really has been a central character in conversations around the Russia investigation ever since it began, really. I mean, he's publicly played a role boasting about what he's done and hasn't done and really sledging Mueller for what he's investigated. But these charges relate specifically to alleged obstruction, lying and witness tampering in connection with his attempts to get information from WikiLeaks about hacked Democratic National Committee emails that it released during the 2016 presidential campaign. You might recall they were a source of constant pleasure and material for candidate Trump on the campaign trail. Now, Roger Stone has been a loyal lieutenant to Donald Trump for decades, someone who long wanted to see him run for president and encouraged him to do so. Back in the day, he in fact ran a political consultancy with Paul Manafort, the former Trump campaign chief, who was also in court today, alleged to have lied to the special counsel. The president has tweeted today after Roger Stone's arrest, repeating his assertions that the special counsel is conducting a witch hunt and that there was no collusion with Russia. Roger Stone, likewise, says he's innocent.
Look at the FBI going in to arrest Roger Stone early this morning. They're not messing around.
An early morning raid on his Florida mansion signaled Roger Stone's day had finally come.
FBI, open the door.
His friends said the political veteran had for months cleared his Fridays in case Robert Mueller's agents turned up, and today they did. Donald Trump's longtime associate had been hiding in plain sight ever since the investigation into collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign began. Tweeting, interviewing, Instagramming his barbed dismissal of the investigation from the considerable comfort of his living room. When the former Nixon aide appeared before the court, he wore shackles, but they were gone when he walked outside to address the cameras after he was bailed on a $250,000 bond.
I will plead not guilty to these charges. I will defeat them in court. I believe this is a politically motivated investigation.
In a 24-page indictment, the special counsel alleges charges ranging from obstruction, lying, and tampering with a witness. Roger Stone's defenders call them process charges, but it is perhaps the dots they offer to join which render them most consequential.
WikiLeaks!
From the President of the United States, via Stone and his associates, to WikiLeaks,
The more emails WikiLeaks releases,
and the Russian state operation to hack the Democratic Party's emails.
WikiLeaks! I love WikiLeaks.
The indictment alleges that Stone took steps to obstruct congressional investigations, that when he appeared before the House Intelligence Committee, he made multiple false statements about his interactions with WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. He also, according to the indictment, attempted to persuade a witness to provide false testimony and withhold pertinent information. And this is when we roll the Godfather 2 clip, because according to the indictment, Stone advised an associate to do a Frank Pantangeli to avoid contradicting what Stone had told the House Intelligence Committee. Frank Pantangeli in the film lies to a Senate committee to protect his boss.
Were you at any time a member of a crime organization headed by Michael Corleone?
I don't know nothing about that.
But that's not the only mobster moment, fictional or otherwise, in the indictment against Stone. Consider this language, which the indictment cites as evidence Stone wanted to prevent Person 2 from cooperating with investigators. On or about April 9, 2018, Stone wrote in an email to Person 2, "You are a rat, a stoolie. You backstab your friends, run your mouth, my lawyers are dying, rip you to shreds." Stone also said he would take that dog away from you, referring to Person 2's dog. On or about the same day, Stone wrote to Person 2, "I am so ready. Let's get it on. Prepare to die!" Expletive. On or about May 21st, 2018, Person 2 wrote in an email to Stone, "You should have just been honest with the House Intel Committee. You've opened yourself up to perjury charges like an idiot." Stone responded, "You are so full of expletive. You got nothing. Keep running your mouth and I'll file a bar complaint against your friend, Person 2's attorney." The White House has shrugged its shoulders at Roger Stone's arrest.
Is that this has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with the White House, and beyond that, I'm not going to get into
But the indictment shows Roger Stone was in close contact with the Trump campaign about WikiLeaks on a number of occasions with high-ranking individuals, including, reportedly, Steve Bannon, his then campaign manager. Most intriguingly is this from the indictment. After the 2016 release of the stolen emails by Organisation One, that's WikiLeaks, a senior Trump campaign official was directed to contact Stone about any additional releases and what other damaging information Organisation One had regarding the Clinton campaign. The question is, if a senior campaign official was directed to contact Stone about drumming up damaging material from WikiLeaks, who was doing the directing?
Roger.
Again, this is an indictment from Robert Mueller's office that teases but fails to reveal all. Roger Stone is likely to appear in a DC court next week. I should say there is now really a guessing game going on in Washington with regard to who is person one, who is person two. These references that have been made in the indictment. It questions really again over whether Ted Malloch, an American academic who is an ally of Nigel Farage, might be one of the people who Roger Stone tried to reach out to via an associate in order to make contact with WikiLeaks. That's a suggestion that Ted Malloch in the past has denied. But there is a lot more to dig through here, and that's what is going to be happening over the next few days.
Thanks, Kylie. But, I mean, President Trump's also in the middle of this massive dispute with the Democrats over funding the Mexican wall and the government shutdown. He's about to speak. What's he going to say?
Well, what we're hearing is that there might be some whiff of a deal, at least a temporary deal, to reopen the government potentially for 3 weeks. Critically, if it is reopened, it will be without any funding for a wall. It will simply be about getting the government back to work. Now, if that is the case, and those are the circumstances under which the government is reopened, this is a real political loss for Donald Trump. Remember, he has really forced this shutdown to go on for weeks. You know, we're into this second paycheck territory. Because he says he was insistent that his wall should be funded. And to get some sense of the kind of the gravity and the suffering of federal workers, Director Chris Wray from the FBI released a video statement to FBI agents earlier.
I know tons of you are feeling the anxiety and the emotional strain of this shutdown. And 100% of you are feeling the financial strain. Making some people stay home when they don't want to and making others show up without pay, it's mind-boggling, it's short-sighted, and it's unfair.
I think it's fair to say that public support has been diminishing, certainly, even among Trump supporters for this shutdown to carry on. So we do expect some kind of announcement along those lines from President Trump shortly.
Well, joining me now from Tallahassee in Florida is the Republican, but fiercely critical of Trump, I should say, political strategist Rick Wilson. Rick Wilson, I mean, if you think about the Roger Stone charges, I mean, this investigation has taken us to campaign aides, his lawyer, you know, and now his longtime political advisor and friend, Roger Stone. It's getting closer.
Well, it is getting closer. Robert Mueller is building a mosaic of charges and connections between the entire apparatus of the Trump campaign, the Trump family, and Trump himself. And, you know, you don't get much closer than Roger Stone, who spent 40 years guiding, shaping, and counseling Donald Trump on every political aspect of his career. And even after Roger left the campaign, he and Trump were still in communication and still were speaking, from what a lot of people have reported. And I think that's probably the concern that the president has right now, is that Robert Mueller knows the times and dates that Roger Stone gave him calls on the phone. And Roger Stone being directly now implicated in handling the WikiLeaks material and now having, you know, facing these charges, I think the pressure has risen significantly today.
But the big difference with Roger Stone is that he is saying he will not give evidence against the president, because that, he says, would be giving false witness. He's gonna stand by his man. So he's not going to make things worse for Trump, is he?
Well, Roger Stone is saying that right now, but he's a 66-year-old man. And the idea of going to federal prison for literally the rest of his life, even if he went to the minimums on those various charges, Roger would be in jail until he, was carried out feet first. So that's a bad scenario for anybody. And so he will now be strongly encouraged by the fact that if he wants to see his wife and grandchildren and children again, it would be smart to go ahead and swallow his pride and to make a deal with Robert Mueller.
Now, we are looking, at the Russia investigation on one, on one side and all the drama associated with that, the government shutdown on the other. And yet this government, this administration, is showing no signs of sort of letting up when it looks, for example, to what's going on in Venezuela, taking very dramatic steps in that direction. Do you think all of these things might be linked up?
Well, I don't think the Venezuela situation is particularly linked up. I mean, there is a large public outpouring in the streets there that has nothing to do with the U.S., of people who are very frustrated with starving to death in a country that should be wealthy, and with the Maduro regime on the whole. So I don't think that was really a U.S. connected matter with the U.S. The shutdown and the Mueller investigation are connected because Donald Trump would rather talk about anything than Robert Mueller. Now, he miscalculated very badly in the shutdown. He's lost a lot of political capital because of it. And it certainly turned into, Donald Trump got his wish when he said in the Oval Office to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I'll take the mantle. I'll own the shutdown. Well, he sure did. And it has cost him an enormous amount of political grief. And now you've got this Roger Stone story breaking today that is going to cause him an awful lot more grief and anxiety over this weekend and going forward.
Rick Wilson, thank you very much.